Good afternoon, this is Jeremy. It's Christmas, December the 25th. I'm just looking at OpenPlotter4, and what I've done is I've installed the starter image on a 32 gig SD card. There's my Raspberry Pi 4, so I've got the SD card inserted, and I'm connecting a GY91, that's a sensor board. It contains a pressure and temperature sensor and a magnetometer. And it's connected to the GPIO here through the top of the case here. Then I've got an RTL-SDR version 5. That's used for the AIS. And I've got an Ethernet connection, so I'm operating the RPi4 remotely over a network, so I can operate it over my laptop, over my desktop. And that's the GNSS receiver here. There it is there. It's just the receiver is built into a patch antenna and an LNA. You can tell by the flashing LED that it's getting a fix. It's a very, very good receiver. And it's picking up just satellites right through the window, believe it or not. So that's the setup. And I'm using outside, I'm using a marine antenna. I'm not going to wander out in the balcony, but that's the marine antenna there. It's just connected temporarily with a C-clamp to the balcony railing there. So I'm just looking at the blog post here. I've got the details in there. So there's the setup. There's the RPi4. There's the RTL version 5 for the AIS. There's the network connection for the VNC. There's my GNSS connection on USB. There's the GY91 sensor board. Here's a schematic showing how it's all connected up. You could connect the GNSS to Signal K server as well. I just run it directly. I just find that easier. There's the GY91 to the GPIO. And down here, this is the image I used. I used the starter image from the Open Marine download. So that's the one I used. And I blew it onto a 32 gig SD card. When you start the image up, you get the settings menu. Now some of these things won't be installed. So what I've done is I've installed them all here, and I've also hit the refresh button, and any updates available, I updated them as well. So that's what I ended up with after I installed everything. Down here you see on the SDR VHF, you need that installed for the AIS. So basically what happens here is I also installed GQRX. If you're using the RTL on GQRX, you can only use it on one or the other. So if you're using it on GQRX, you have to unassociate it. So pick another input device because you're going to need it for the AIS. So once you've got the set up for the AIS, hit the edit button, and then you can set up your parameters for the RTL. So I picked a gain of 29.7 dB, and the RTL version 5 is pretty accurate, so I have no error there. So I've saved that there. There's OpenCPN. Now, for OpenCPN, you have, that's the connections here. When you hit this menu here, so I set it up for the serial input for the GNSS receiver, and that's from my Signal K. And down here, that's my OpenCPN display. There's my home location. And you can see there's a lot of AIS contacts here. That's a closer view of the AIS contacts. Previous versions of OpenPlotter, I found the AIS, I wasn't able to receive anything in my home location, but this version of OpenPlotter has a very, very sensitive AIS, which is great. So I'm getting lots of contacts, and I'm not even close to the harbor, so that's pretty amazing. Here's the setup for the GY91. The GY91 has a voltage regulator, so normally the VN can be, you could set it up for 5 volts or 3.3, so it'll work on either one. The SCL and the SDA, of course, those particular pins work at 3.3 volts, but as far as the board is concerned, you can choose 5 volts or 3.3 volts. There's the I2C menu, so it detects the sensors. So the address 76, hex 76, that's for the temperature and pressure sensor, and 68 is for the MPU IMU. When you hit PyPilot, it detects the MPU 9250. There's a signal case server showing the activity of the AIS and the sensors. And the web application for the web server, you can set up a display here. There's the air pressure and temperature, and there's the compass reading and the yaw, pitch, and roll for the MPU. Let's actually, I've got it running. Let's go over to, I'm on VNC viewer here. So there's an actual live view of, there's my GNSS. The GNSS receiver is amazing. It receives more than GPS. It receives the GLONASS, the Baidu, and the Galileo as well. So that's handy in case one of them happens to be down. There's the activity of the receiver there. There's my location, the red boat, and you can see there's lots of AIS activity. Like I said, in previous versions of OpenPlotter, the AIS wasn't as sensitive. This is really, really good. Let's see what else we can see here. Let's go into the SDR VHF menu. So there we are. There's the AIS and the GQRX. And then we can also see the I2C. There's the I2C menu, where we have the detection of the BMP, and then finally PyPilot. For the detection of the MPU.